Assalamu alaikum. This is one of the many episodes explaining the glorious history of Algeria, answering the question, which is the oldest or the first university in the world? Some say the oldest university of the world is Al-Qarawiyyin University in Fez, Morocco, and some say it's Madura or Mdawrush University in Souq Ahras, Algeria, as it's recognized as the oldest university in Africa. I don't think it's that complicated, and I think we shouldn't differ on this at all. We can just check the creation date of the two universities, and the one with the oldest date is evidently the older university. When we check the dates, the ones who say that Al-Qarawiyyin University is the first university say it was created in the year 859, and the ones who say that Madura or Mdawrush University is the first say it was created in the year 200 BC. So how come there's a dispute on the subject? Intuitively, the one created before the birth of Jesus, or Isa alayhi salam, is the older university. Maybe we need some argumentation and a bit of negotiation on this to prove our point. Today, we will renew the claim that in Algeria lies the oldest university in Africa, and we will build a file that can be used for UNESCO or the press with scientific arguments that can also be used for future generations, inshallah. We will also mention new details not known to all about Madura University, like educational tools, the teachers, their names, the alumni, the curriculum, the graduate jobs, the specialties, and we will go back in time to see a simulation on their amphitheater. We start with St. Augustine, who was sent by his parents far to an advanced grammar school in the town of Madura, now named Mdawrush. He found that Madura was a center of classical Roman culture and learning. When he talks about Madura, he says, in its schools, meaning it has many schools, and we're talking here about the heart of the religious and literary culture. And here in the footer, he says, you can find more details about the schools of Madura in the book titled L'évolution intellectuelle de Saint-Augustin. We checked out the book. It didn't touch about the Madura University specifically, but it talked about St. Augustine's life in Madura by saying the young student, and it's clear that where there is a student, there is a university, as depicted here in Larousse dictionary. Let's see here if we can find something about the university. St. Augustine says about Madura, that town where I learned literature and rhetoric. Maybe he learned that in the city, but not at the city's university itself. We need to find proof that Madura had a university. In this book, it describes the kids of Mdawrush during the French colonization. When you see them in circles, reading and learning the Quran, you would hardly recall the university that was here in the past, where St. Augustine was studying. Read this clearly. Where was St. Augustine studying in the past? He was in a university, and this is not a press or social media talk, it's Paul Monceau's words, a historian, professor, and archaeologist. We read here, when Augustine was 15, he was studying at Madura, and it was a university town. I think it doesn't get any clearer than that. The most important thing in a university town is the university in it. In this book, it talks about Apuleius. It says he was born in the year 124 AD in a university town named Madura, which is the same where Augustine had studied before. In the 2nd century, Madura had a university, way before any other university in the 9th century. Apuleius wrote a novel titled The Golden Ass, which is the oldest novel in existence today. Historians say about him that there is no one equivalent to him in all of Africa. In this book titled Letters of St. Augustine, on page 111, we find a title in bold to introduce a new paragraph, and it says, Madura was a Numidian university town. So, it's clear that Madura was well known throughout history, and I don't think there should be a doubt that it's the oldest university since it's well known from the 2nd century. And when we say the 2nd century, it doesn't mean it was created in the 2nd century, but it was mentioned in the 2nd century as a university town. And now, since the existence of the university in Madura has become proven from many historical sources, do we have some extra details that describe this university? Yes, we do. In the year 1929, Norma Meyer graduated from the Boston University with a degree of Master of Arts, and the subject of her thesis was the education of Augustine. Since he was one of the students and alumni of Madura, for sure she would touch upon this educational institution. Upon reading her thesis, I found the description I was looking for and the sources for every description she used. Here is a summary. First, related to the school's equipment. It was much better than that of the elementary schools, meaning the school was for students above elementary school and not for elementary pupils, even though she named it a school. This also means that after studying in the elementary schools, the students would go to graduate school, where Augustine studied. The classrooms had benches for students and a high stage for the teacher. They were decorated with paintings and sculptures, especially of famous authors and poets. As for the teachers, they were paid by the government or the city, but they were mostly paid from the students' tuition fees and gifts. The teachers had a good status in society. There are old manuscripts giving more details about the salaries and gifts to the teachers and scholars. The pages of history show that the most famous teacher in Madura University was Maximus. As for the teaching methods, the university gave a great deal of freedom to the teachers to prepare their courses without an intervention from the state. As for the purpose of the teaching in the university, we can read that the teaching was literary, and since it was literary, the focus was on studying the language, correctness of expression, studying writers' and poets' biographies, and with more courses in explaining and interpreting poems. The final purpose for the university was training the students to become orators or writers. The educational content of the university was focused more towards grammar, literary products, sermons, and declamation. It also focused on word derivatives. The continuous communication and contact between the students and famous authors and poets elevated the level of the students. In addition to the literary content, mathematics and music were also a part of the curriculum. Since arithmetic was studied in elementary schools, geometry, astronomy, and geography were also added. So, based on all that, the University of Madura is the oldest university in the world, with a bonus of having the oldest novel. Before I close, look at this manuscript that's ascribed to Capella, one of the pioneers of Madura University. As we can see, he drew the Earth in the middle of the solar system. This is a 3D simulation of the amphitheater.
سلام. في هذه الحلقة غادي نهضروا على واحد المدينة اللي عندها مكانة كبيرة في تاريخ شمال إفريقيا، اللي هي مدينة مدوروش، واللي للأسف ما معروفاش بزاف عند الناس. مدوروش اللي كانت كتضم أول وأقدم جامعة في شمال إفريقيا، اللي تبنات في عهد الملك الأمازيغي سيفاكس ما بين 230 و 220 قبل الميلاد. مدوروش كانت مدينة قبلة ديال المفكرين والعلماء والطلبة والتلاميذ، وعطاتنا رجال كبار في التاريخ ومفكرين كما القديس أغسطين أو سانت أوغسطين اللي درس في مدوروش، أفولي ولا أبولي اللي درس كذلك في مدوروش في الجامعة ديال مدوروش وأصله من مدوروش، وكذلك واحد المفكر و غراميريان اللي معروف كذلك في التاريخ ومعروفش عند الناس، اللي هو ماكسيم دو مادور أو لا ماكسيم دو مدوروش.